Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese's on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Yeah! There's something weird going on here. I'll figure it out in a second. What's going on, all you scallywags, nutmeggers, conversationalists all over the fruited plain? It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. It looks like I'm having some sort of weird studio output problem here, which is always something. There's always, I see what it is. Roland, you're going to have to help me here. So what they do here, can you come here in the studio and help me for a second? This is going to be, and it happens all the time. And I cannot believe I have to come in here and have to check this every time. For those of you who are listening online, you're not going to hear me. And I apologize for that. We will fix this in due course. But some odd reason, someone comes into the studio and will unplug this system. And, Roland, if you go right over there, you'll see that little box that says do not touch. That we put the words do not touch on the thing there. And the green cord, there should be a green loose cord that should have been plugged into there. There it is. And it goes into that on the right-hand side. There you go. Click that in, and there you go. Now we have volume. And we tell them, it's a big giant sign, says do not touch. It says don't touch. Doesn't it say that? It says do not touch, and everybody unplugs it. It's not even for them. It's for me. Please do not touch the cord. That's the reason why we put it there. It's like having to tell somebody to wash your hands before you leave the bathroom. My apologies to those of you who are online. Those of you who can only, especially for those of you who listen to the program all across the fruited plain, as Rush would say. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a diva that ends up screaming and hollering at people. I was like, don't touch my stuff. No, just please, if you're going to touch it, can you please put it back? That's all. Just put it back. I'd really appreciate that. You know, I come in here and I put everybody else's stuff out of the way. I don't mess with it. I like to respect everybody's stuff. I just want the same thing for me. Please. And again, I hope I'm not coming off as some sort of tyrant. I'm not. I'm trying to be kind here. Anyway, we're back. We're here. We got a lot of stuff. I was expecting things to go south today because we got a big interview today. And I appreciate those of you who are concerned. Hey, you ready? Yes, I am ready. And that is because the Secretary of Education, Cabinet Secretary for that matter, Linda McMahon, Connecticut's own, will be on the program today at 5 p.m., a little after 5 o'clock. And Adam, by the way, if you can reach out to her folks, please don't tell her to call at 5 because we got to do the 508 traffic. I'm not going to have these folks sitting on the phone for 8 whole minutes. That would be wrong. Tell them to call in about 5:07 so that the secretary, Madam Secretary, is not waiting. Her time is important to her, and she's doing us a favor. So please tell her folks, call it roughly at about 5:07 so I can do the traffic and we can get right to her interview because she is gracefully and kindly giving us her time before her 7 p.m. her speech at Yale. We'll take your phone calls thereafter. Also on the program today is Devon Ward. I don't think Mark of West Hartford's going to make it. He's going to try. He had an appointment that he could not rearrange. So I'm going to see how I can work him in. Hopefully he could just dash over here to talk to the ombudsman, Devon Ward, because we got a host of questions for him. I've got a lot of questions for him as it relates to the prison system, the recent deaths. I think we're up to 9 now, and everything under the sun we're going to try to get to. Doug says, do not touch Reese's setup. His audience needs to hear his wisdom. Oh, thank you, Doug. That's nice of you. So all of that is happening today. So I want to thank both of them, Devon Ward, the Ombudsman for Corrections, to be here, and Linda McMahon, before they both arrive and do the show today. Thank you today for doing the program. I also want to give a shout-out to Mike Ortiz today. He and I had a brief conversation. He's coming to the program next week. I think, let's say Thursday. He'll be here next week, Thursday. We'll talk to him. I want to go back and forth with him. He's a news guy, me being a news guy, and I want to get his perspective on a lot of the news that's happening around here where, it's election year here in Connecticut and news is everywhere. It's a great time to be in the news business, especially for guys like me and Mike. So I kind of want to be here with a guy who, he and I don't want to consider us like-minded, but if I were to use the term like-minded, we believe that there is a lane for our journalism, for lack of a better word, and that is informing the public. And he's a great guy. I found him, or at least his post on Facebook, and I said, I got to make sure I reach out to this guy, but I'm so busy and I'm a one-man band. I've got a couple of people on my team, but I'm kind of a one-man band when it comes to reaching out to people. So I'm glad that I got a hold of him. He's a former employee here. He's worked in radio before. So I can't wait to have him on and bring him back into the building and introduce him to you, for those of you who may not be familiar with him. So I had a great conversation with him, brief, but a conversation nonetheless. I do have to talk about the latest. I know that this morning, Aaron Stewart made a phone call into Brian and Company, spoke to Brian Shackman about this deal with the tax collector in New Britain. I want to talk a little bit about that today. You guys might recall when Aaron Stewart first arrived on this program, before our second interview, the first interview we did together in the studio at about 3 o'clock. She was here only for a little while. I was a little critical of her interview with Dennis House at WTNH. And you can go back to that interview because you might recall I told Aaron that you have to treat media and people who are speaking to you in the media like you would a criminal case, like you were being questioned by a lawyer in a trial. You know what I mean? You have to be certain that you're answering the question that you're asked. If you are offering up information that is not asked, people take notice of that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened in the Brian Shackman interview. I'm not even suggesting that. I listened to it. I'm not saying that. But I am going to say this. Aaron, I don't believe, I don't know whether or not there's anything to this story that says she gave the word for this woman, Blogaskowski, whatever her name is, gave her the word that she should do these things. I have no idea. There's no way for me to know. The only people who know are Cheryl, Aaron, and God. They're the only people who know, unless there are other people. But I'm going to leave it to those three. But I will say this, and this is important, that, one, do not take this in a flippant way. It's not funny. Because when the knives are out, the knives are out. And you have got to come headstrong right to the face of those who are trying to undermine you and who you are. You have got to come headstrong. This isn't about doing the same thing back to them. No. It is impossible for you to prove a negative. If someone had accused her of killing puppies, how was she supposed to prove that she don't kill puppies? This is one of those things where you have to recognize what is happening. Someone is saying that you're guilty of something, and now you have to prove, and in this case, go back in time and prove that you did not do those things. There are insurmountable odds you have to face in that. So you must come at them headstrong. Do not be flippant. Do not. People will recognize that. Do not be dismissive. Treat it with the same urgency they're trying to treat you. Because what they're saying is you are serious this or that. You have got to come back and say, no, this is who I am. And you got to do it, and you got to do it square up right in their face. And you got to say, come at me, what have you got? That's always going to be the answer. Now, this is advice. Like I said to her here, and I will say to her again, if anyone ever approaches you and says that you're this, that, and the third, and is categorically untrue, do not be flippant at all. It is a serious allegation they are levying, and the response to it is serious. There are some people, of course, who are out to get her, without a doubt, who will take this in and weaponize it to the umpth degree to just pick her off the list. Recognize what they're trying to do. If someone is now, if they're honestly trying to get to the truth, deal with that as such. But those of them out there who are trying to do exactly as I described, to pick you off with malice, you've got to push that, and you got to push back. And you have to do it effectively. And you've got to go right in the face of the people, in Erin's case, that she is accusing. Might I give some advice? Here's some, unsolicited. Erin said that she believes that this is a hack job or a witch hunt orchestrated by the governor. Fine. Go to his next press conference and go toe-to-toe. Arrive at his press conference right there in front of him, in front of the cameras, and say, you're trying to disable my campaign? You and your operatives are coming after my campaign? Well, if we're going there, we're going there. And you say it to his face, and you say it with conviction. That's what I would do. And it isn't about, again, this is what it takes today. And you don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to call them any names. You don't have to be dismissive. You don't even have to you don't have to curse. You don't have to be loud. You go right there. Let me tell you why this works. And I'm going to use today's guest as a perfect example. Did anybody see what Linda McMahon did in the front of the Board of Education building when several members of Congress, I believe it was a couple of women who were there, some men, who had showed up outside the Department of Education when they couldn't get in, and they held a press conference to bemoan about Donald Trump and him gutting the Department of Education? Do you remember what Linda McMahon did? She showed up and she spoke at the press conference. She literally removed the teeth from that whole press conference by showing up. It was so bold that the people who were there to protest her had to step aside and give her the microphone. Does anybody remember that? Does anybody remember how bold that was? Because that's what you do. You don't cower. You don't run. If somebody is coming for your head or coming to you, you have got to come back even stronger. Puff your chest. Stand tall. Or else you will let others, and that's what I said here to Erin. You all know I did. I said it to Ben Proto too. Do not let others dictate who you are by saying nothing, by being flippant. It's nothing. No. If there's enough energy in destroying you, put the same energy in fighting back. Do not be dismissive, because people will say, oh, she doesn't even care. That never works. People love a fighter. People respect a fighter. And I know the folks are listening. I expect them to. And I don't think there's anyone out there who can deny what I am saying right now. There's not one person who can deny it. Everybody wants to handle the beefs in the press or in interviews. No. Lamont's got a campaign to run too. Lamont's got to be out there, pressing the flesh, as they call it. Doing press conferences, showing up in places. Show up. How do you think I mean, I've asked them plenty of times to come here on the show. They say no. So what do? I show up. So that's what you have to do too. And you have to make sure your people are filming it. Make sure that the press sees it. Hey, Ned, how you doing? I understand you're coming after my campaign. I understand that you guys don't want to come at me fair and square. You guys want to smear it. Well, I'm here to tell you we're not standing for that. We're going to fight back. You think you fight hard against Donald Trump? You have no idea what you're dealing with. You tell him right to his face and make sure every camera gets it and walk off. That's it. What do you think the story's going to be? You think the story's going to be about Ned Lamont kissing babies or cutting ribbons? Hell no. You catch that man flat-footed, he won't even know what to do with himself. And his campaign wouldn't know how to respond either. They'd have to double down. Plus, they'd know that you're serious. Here end the lesson. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not. But as I say, I've got the evidence to prove that my way works. You never, ever take anything lying down. You never do. Because as she said, and I saw her live video on Facebook, right? They're trying to take her out. Okay. I believe that you believe that. And you might even be right. Question is what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You have got to let people know that you are not above standing up and fighting for you. Because that will let them know that you will fight for them. And I don't know if you've tested or even conversed with the GOP here in this state. They're looking for somebody who's going to fight for them. People may be dismissive of Betsy McCoy, but you can't deny she knows how to draw an audience, doesn't she? Yeah. I'd say take a page from her book. If you want to be serious, that is. And I'm not saying that they aren't, but I'd consider it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views, and a whole bunch of other stuff when we return. It's Reese on the Radio.
Fan of WTIC? Then do us a favor. Download the free Odyssey app and favorite WTIC.
I got to tell you, the thing that drives me nuts about the wires in here is that I have to move them and they get tangled up in this chair. We're back. Reese on the Radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. I just read this article out of the New York Post. And you know what we need to do? We need an archivist here at Reese on the Radio. It has to happen. Or at least I've got to find a way to get an archivist in this situation. And let me tell you why. I call so much of this stuff in the beginning that it takes so long to come to fruition that I've got to then search the whole database on when did I say it, at what time in a 4-hour show did I say it, so then I could find the clip. And here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Which is why, although it appears arrogant, I know those of you who say it, you've said it to people who work here, I've heard you. I take no offense to it, by the way. It's okay for you to have that opinion about me. But I said this a long time ago. In New York, Zohran Mamdani made all of these promises about how he needed to raise taxes on the wealthy to get the government supermarket, to get free buses, for all of the gimmies that he promised. And Kathy Hochul went around and said, nope, I don't think we should. I don't think that we should do this. We're not going to go after people for their wealth. It's not going to happen. Well, here we are. Kathy Hochul, clear flip-flop on taxes. She repeated pledges of no new taxes in the 2026 budgets. But just days ago, that was on days ago, right? She proposed a new tax on luxury New York City second homes to help plug Mayor Zohran Mamdani's $5.4 billion city budget hole. She said she wasn't going to do it. And I told you that she was never going to she was never going to stand that ground. No way. At all. She couldn't do it. And here she is. Same thing's going to happen with our current governor. What do you think he's going to do? He's probably going to tell you no new taxes, just like he told you he was going to give you that $550 million in tourism tax. How'd that turn out? That son of a gun doesn't even know it was his administration that implemented it. He said that, said it preceded him. The audacity of this guy. And I know, I get it all the time from the left. Oh, politicians lie. Really, why do you get so bent out of shape when Trump allegedly does it then? And with that, if it's important to you, if all politicians lie, shouldn't they pay for that? But I told everybody it was going to happen. There was no choice. New York has gone so far to the left. There is no left. It's just there. There is no right. They're just there. And sure enough, that happened. I found that. I don't know. I didn't find it amazing. As soon as I read it in the Post, I went, didn't we talk about this? Did I not predict this? There you go. Later on, also in the program, Devon Ward will be here. We're going to talk to him about the situation at corrections. We had 9 deaths inside the facility. That's a lot. We'll see if there's any update on J. Allen Jones. In essence, that is the reason why he called up the show to be here, because he heard about my exchange with William Tong. So he'll be here to talk about that, as well as what's going on in corrections. You know, he did an audit not too long ago, which showed the conditions of the prison system and the correction facilities with mold and rats and mice and all that stuff. So we'll talk to him about the efforts to improve on that. Mark in West Hartford said something interesting about the governor as it relates to the prison system, and that was they did not appoint an ombudsman for years. And then, of course, COVID hits, and, you know, the prison clearly dilapidated as it is today, now has Devon Ward there to sort of clean up years, maybe even a decade worth of mismanagement in corrections. I want to talk to Devon about how he's keeping up with that, if at all, and what the struggle is there and what could possibly be done to help him out. We'll talk about that. If there's any reports, Adam, let me know if there are any reports on that Aetna thing, because I know that you were looking into it. So if there are any details to that, I didn't hear anything in John Silver's report, but then again, I missed it because I was paying attention to some other stuff. Later on, I want to talk about the Pope. And this thing about the Pope, before I get into it, I told a lot of these non-Christians in the last couple of days, shut up. You don't believe in God. You don't go to church. You're not even high holiday Christians. You're kind of a joke. But you needed something. And the news media gave you something to be outraged about. Suddenly, Jesus Christ needed to be protected by a bunch of heretics. Finally, Jesus Christ was on the lips of every one of you folks. Jesus would never. Jesus Christ would look at Trump. You all know Jesus Christ. For some odd reason, you know exactly what Jesus Christ would think of all of us. You have now become judge, jury, of the gospel. Suddenly, all of you are Bible clutching. And while trying to defend the Pope, who, by the way, you wanted no parts of when you found out that he was against gay marriage. You wanted no parts of him. I read the articles. A lot of you were very upset that he was a traditionalist Christian. You didn't like a bit anything about him. Well, he's more to the right of Pope Francis, you bemoaned. Now, all of a sudden, he's your favorite Christian. The Vatican? Honey, we're going there for Christmas. Next Easter, we're on a plane, sweetie. You're all devout Christians. Going to church this Sunday? Now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump puts an AI photo of himself in. Oh, blasphemy. Oh. All of my church-going friends were absolutely distraught. You see the new polling data on Christians and Donald Trump? Yes, I saw them. You must be crying in your sacrificial wine right now. What are you, on your third glass? I saw that, Lori Maz. Lori Maz says Joy Behar called Jesus a narcissist. He never went around calling himself the Messiah. With all due respect, Joy Behar, Jesus was kind of the Kanye West of calling himself the Messiah. And I say that completely tongue-in-cheek before people start calling me blasphemous. But you get my meaning. Jesus definitely called himself the Messiah. But what would you expect from a Jewish woman? Okay, what would you expect from her? She's Jewish. She is. She knows nothing about the Bible. This was the same woman. Now, this is, remember, and I always say, never ever quote The View. Because between weeks, we're talking about weeks from themselves, there was one episode where the ladies of The View, Joy Behar included, were ridiculing former Vice President Mike Pence because of an interview where he said that he spoke to God or God spoke to him. And the harpies of The View mocked him for that. Those religious zealots who believe that they are speaking to God and God spoke to them. How dare they think that God chose them and spoke to them? Who do they think they are? Moses? And then weeks later, everybody's favorite deity, Oprah Winfrey, shows up on The View and says, and I quote, I hear God as he speaks to me. Yes, sister girl. Yes, they all applauded. Yes, sister girl. God called on me. Yes, sister. Yes. That's because if you're Negro and you talk about God speaking to you, all bets are off. Of course, God spoke to you. Yes, sister child. Of course, God spoke to you. He clearly speaks to the Negro. But if you're a straight white male and he says that Jesus spoke to him, heretic! It makes me laugh. It does. It's absolutely hilarious. I love watching them do it, lose their mind. When we come back, a man who became the Pope apparently thinks that he can take the scripture. He can take the scripture and remix it. We'll explain when we return. The Pope's a DJ of the gospel. Stick around. We'll be back. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
You know, I like this Johnny Cash shirt you guys are mentioning on the air. I haven't worn this shirt, I want to say, in almost 2 years, maybe even longer. I found it in my drawer, and I was like, hey, you know, I haven't worn this Johnny Cash shirt in a long time. And I put it on, and it's all loose and whatnot, and it fits weird on me. But I'm a big Johnny Cash fan. I love the style of this shirt. It's very country western, Johnny Cash-esque. Don't forget, if you're just joining us in the 5 o'clock hour, Linda McMahon, Education Secretary of the Trump administration, will be joining us on the phone. She's got a speech at Yale today at 7 p.m. We'll talk to her a little bit about that. And I'm going to ask her some questions about everything from homeschooling here in Connecticut, about the parents who protested having her speak at a few schools here in Connecticut, see if we can get her to talk a little bit about the message she wanted to share with the children here and pretty much Connecticut overall. We'll get to the bottom of that with her. I just want to sort of tell her, or at least see if I can convey to her, to send a message to the president from all of us, because I know a lot of you are feeling that the president is going, he went to Memphis to clean up out there. Of course, he cleaned up D.C. Now he's got people going out in California, and everybody in Connecticut that I speak to is like, please, Donald Trump, don't forget about Connecticut. We need your help. It's like, I know that we're a small state, but we're like, please don't forget us. There's so much corruption around. We know that it's here. Please help us. So I want to kind of take this opportunity to say to Secretary McMahon, please send a message to the president that, we don't want to be forgotten in all of this. We know about the 2 lawsuits by the DOJ, but we're hoping that we get the attention of the president and let him know that, he's got a strong support out here. And we're fighting for, I guess, in a lot of ways, we're fighting for the state that is forcing a lot of people to leave. A lot of people don't want to, and they're feeling a little bit forgotten. And if there's anyone who can sort of lift their spirits, because I'm trying my best to see if we can get the secretary to get that message to the president. I'm hoping to do that here today, as well as talk about what her agenda is as well. I mean, she's, hometown girl. So I'm hoping that we can do that. All right, so stand by for that. Also coming up, we have to talk about Justin Fairfax. This is the former lieutenant governor of Virginia. I lived there during his tenure as lieutenant governor, and I need to talk a little bit about him and his controversies as the lieutenant governor of Virginia. There's a lot of irony in what took place today at his home. And I feel and weep for his 16-year-old son, who had to sit who had to discover his mother in this way. And if I can sort of connect this with Linda McMahon wanting to come visit Connecticut and speak to those schools, it is always astonishing to me that people who are supposed to care about children and care about the future of our children always do the thing the most detrimental to them for their own ridiculous, selfish, and vindictive reasons. And what Justin Fairfax did was beyond the pale, without a doubt, but not even considering his 16-year-old son. It shows you exactly the type of scum he was. And same thing goes for those parents who protested a cabinet secretary coming and putting a national spotlight on our state by her coming here into our hometown to speak to young people about education. You really, really dropped the ball on this one. You really did. Because you made it about yourselves, and you hurt the very people you have sworn or are to believe to be protecting, and that's the children. You know damn well that Linda McMahon means no harm to your kids. You know that. There is no debate there. And I would take Linda McMahon and I would put her up against any one of the people you got in the Democrat Party when it comes to protecting kids. Because if I asked Linda McMahon whether or not Genderqueer is an okay book for your children, you can damn well bet Bob Duff will throw the book into a classroom and Linda McMahon would jump in front of the person throwing it to block it to keep them from their children. So please do not lecture the rest of us about what Linda McMahon wants to do for children. Never. She's got a track record, and you can say anything you want. I would sit up here and say that it is close to impeccable compared to the likes of people who are trying to, what they're doing as it relates to children. Huh? Linda McMahon's never called for mutilating young boys and girls. And you got people on the House right now fighting tooth and nail to codify that into law. Young people don't know anything about themselves or their future, telling them to cut off their body parts. And parents had the audacity to call her dangerous. So I have been dying to get her here so that she can get her message on the most popular show in Connecticut. Come on, tell the truth. So we'll get to that in due course. So roughly about, I'll say 5:07. Adam, please contact them. Let them know. Don't call up too early. Call it roughly about 5:07, 5:08 so we can do the BPS lawyer's traffic report, and then we'll get to her because I don't want to hold her up on the phone for too long. All right, let's get to some news. John Silva is here, and he's got all of that news for you. We'll return. We'll talk about the Pope and Justin Fairfax when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're back. Reese on the radio here. And as I mentioned in the last break, the so-called Christians who are now immediately outraged at Donald Trump depicting himself as some form of some deity and immediately attributing it to it. Oh, he thinks he's Jesus. I can't, again, couldn't stop laughing at it. And it is funny to me because I think anyone thinks that they can criticize your faith while they lack any. And the hypocrisy knows no bounds. And let me give you a couple of examples of this. So, Jesus is sacred and not to be blanked with by these people who are outraged. Although they are not Christians, they are holding up, in their view, the sanctity of Jesus Christ. Because that's the reason why they're outraged. How dare Donald Trump? Now, again, not followers of Jesus Christ, not religious or pious in any way. But Jesus Christ, don't touch him. Don't you dare depict yourself in him. And even doing so, outrage. But to go one step further, if you're a Christian, these non-Bible thumping, non-church going, occasional protectors of Jesus Christ, who only come out of the woodwork when they need to tell everybody about how sanctified they are, will then condemn you, the church-going folk, the Bible-thumping folk, for not being upset. You, a person of faith, you don't meet the standard of the everyday harlot, heretic, lucky come lately to religion. Hell, people who never go to church, but are quick to say, oh my God, dear God, God bless you. But then, again, back to condemning you for not vilifying Donald Trump. But you're a Christian, they say. Outsider telling you how to behave. Would they, by the way, would they ever tolerate that anywhere else in the world? You're a Puerto Rican. You can't tell black people what to eat. You're a black person. You can't tell Puerto Ricans how to live. Right? Now non-Christians telling Christians, and they have the audacity. You're a Christian. Shouldn't you condemn this? You don't. You're a bad Christian. It's like, when was the last time you ever picked up a Bible? Well, I mean, I don't really believe in religion. Shut up then. Shut up. But folks, when I told you that this was no different than Mitt Romney or George W. Bush or Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly, even Alex Jones, who are profiteering off of being anti-Trump, look no further than the Pope. The one that they are trying to place on high all of a sudden. Yeah. Yeah. He's the most important religious figure ever. Yeah. This is the religious leader. And how dare they say anything about the Pope? He is the leader of over 1 billion, maybe 2 billion Christians across the globe. But I found it interesting that this happened. Here's the Pope. Where was he? He was in, is it my brother's favorite place? Was he there? Was he in Cameroon? Yes, he was. My brother loves saying that word. Cameroon. Here is the Pope.
Jesus told us, blessed are the peacemakers.
He did. Jesus said that. He said it in Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers. He did. Sermon on the Mount. It's very popular.
But woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain.
Hold up! Jesus never said that. Jesus never said that at all. That's nowhere in the Bible. I mean, nowhere in the Bible. Now think about what the Pope said here. He is reading this off a sheet of paper. The religious leader. He didn't become Pope. Nobody plucked him off the street. Say, hey, buddy, what are you doing? You got nothing? Hey, come on, be Pope. No. These guys went all the way to seminary, religious, whatever the case may be, and he's gone up the ranks. So he should know the Bible like, I don't know. He should know the Bible like anybody. He should be able to dictate that on the top of his head. Lord knows my pastor Todd does. I just had counsel with him. He was pulling Bible verses off the top of his head. He's no Pope. But here's the Pope. Weirdly enough.
Jesus told us, blessed are the peacemakers.
100% right. But again, this is not in the Bible.
But woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God.
Those who manipulate religion. Oh, snap, Pope. Whoa. Those who manipulate religion.
For their own military, economic, or political gain.
You mean like you? You mean like you did in Cameroon? Because, buddy, that's what you did. That's what you did. And the purpose of that was to attack the President of the United States. And I think, personally, somebody told you, Or maybe you decided on your own that you're going to start smelling yourself now. You're getting all of this attention. You're getting all of this praise. You're feeling a little big on yourself. I understand that you're everyone's religious leader, but you're making this personal. I know, Your Eminence, you are just a man. You are only just a man. And even Jesus Christ was tempted. I get it. But what happened here needs to stop. Donald Trump's got no war with you. He doesn't even need to. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, he's going to win that war. Here's why, if you want to have one. Here's why he's going to win the war. Because he doesn't have to lie about who he is. He knows who he is. He is going to attack those who attack him. He's going to do exactly what he does. No one who knows Donald Trump is surprised by it. No one who knows Donald Trump woke up the morning and said, did Trump just attack the Pope? I don't know, folks. Were you here for the last Pope? Does anybody remember Donald Trump criticizing Francis? I do. Does this sound par for the course? Yes. The only person out of step here is the new Pope. He's doing things that's out of sort. Before the Pope became the Pope, he was on Twitter admonishing the administration. But guess what? Nobody cared because nobody knew who he was. So when he came out today, or when he came out yesterday in Cameroon, lying about the Bible and lying about Jesus Christ, and then trying to seem holier than thou, what do you think the rest of us are saying? Hey, you're the Pope. You're already righteous. You don't have to put a little, spin on the ball. Just throw it down the hole, right there, straight across the plate, my man. But you let a lot of these people hype you up. Remember what Eminem said to Papa Doc? Said you let a lot of these people in the 313 gas you up. And that's what they're doing. People think that this is going to affect the religious faction of Donald Trump's support, that this is going to help them in the midterm elections. Why else would you go to the Pope, David Axelrod? Huh? Why else would Barack Obama go there? Isn't this the guy who said when the chips come down, I will pick the religion of my father? The guy couldn't even remember his Christian faith. By the way, when's the last time you saw Barack Obama at church outside of a funeral? Anyone? 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 I didn't. I didn't see any. Today? No, absolutely not. But anyway, I'm just found it interesting. You don't have to lie. That's the point here. You don't have to lie. You don't have to spit on the ball, as they say, to throw it across the plate. You should be a straight shooter. That's it. That's all it is. Listen to the Pope.
Jesus told us, blessed are the peacemakers. But woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain, dragging that which is sacred into darkness and filth.
You don't think he's being political there? If the Pope has read the Bible, he also understands that the Bible commands governments to bear the sword against evil. That's in Romans 13:4. Peace sometimes requires strength, not endless hand-wringing, while Christians get slaughtered in Africa and in the Middle East. How would the Pope suggest we deal with the constant murdering of Nigerians? How would he say that we do that? Go over there and pray for the murderers? Or should we fight them? What should they do? What should our military do? Should we sit there and allow them to be slaughtered, lest we be condemned? What should we do? I hate to do it because I don't even do this. But it has become this sort of theme as of late, where social media and all these other political outfits start getting in the ears of people who are supposed to be, again, straight-laced, down the middle, not making it about themselves, do exactly what's being done here. And you may call it sacrilegious for me to speak on it, but the truth is you all know it. You don't have to lie. And there are plenty of people, and I know it's going to happen. Trust me, watch this. Because of doing that, because that video went viral, there are many people of the faith, there are many people who are Christians who will say, Pope, you don't do that. There's no reason to. Donald Trump is going to be the president until the end of 2028, and he's going to move on. If you continue to be the Pope, you don't want this coming back to you. Because the next president might say, the Pope says we don't go to war. Huh? What if the next president of the United States is a devout Catholic who believes in your gospel? And he decides that when someone or some country or some group of people, some vulnerable group of people need the sword the most, they go, don't want to run afoul of the church. What will he say then? Should he wait for your counsel? For you to come to him and say, hey, man, nudge, nudge. I was just doing that for the other guy. Stay out of it. It's that simple. It is. I know people don't like that, but that's just the fact. Just is. Pope Leo is but a man. And here he's wrong. Please don't tell me that he can't be. Huh? Pope Benedict, anyone? Huh? I love the way people talk about his Hitler Youth years. I'm sorry, that was low. That was a low blow. When has Trump gone to church? That's what I just got in the message. Are you new to this show? Are you really new to this show? Please do your own work here. Anyway, that's anyway going on. I don't understand that. But anyway, let me see. The Pope should know the Bible as if he wrote it, Michael A. says. Good point, buddy. Lori says, oopsie, like the false prophets we have. That's exactly the point. Elaine says, let's invite Pope Leo to the Reese on the Radio show. That'd be nice. Catholic priests are highly educated in theology and the Bible. I doubt your knowledge and Trump's together of the Bible wouldn't account for 1/100th of theirs. Yes, which is my point, Bob. I think you're making my point for me. Do you need to hear the quote again?
Jesus told us, blessed are the peacemakers, but woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain.
He knows the Bible 100 times more than me. He should not be made to look like a fool by the likes of me or anybody else who found it and pointed it out, because the video is viral. The video is being shared everywhere. That the Pope got in over his skis on a debate about Donald Trump and went one step further. Why? Because he was feeling arrogant. Again, he is but a man. And he knew he was being filmed. He knows that he is being followed. He knows that he is being broadcast across the world because he's going after what everybody is considering the most dangerous man in the world. And if you go up against Trump, you will get your 8, 9, 15, 24 minutes of fame. Why? Because the media wants to prop him up because he is an adversary to Donald Trump. And what do you think happened? He dropped the ball. His own arrogance. It's a self-own, right? Isn't this what do they call it, an own goal? That's what this is. So please don't preach to me about how much of the Bible he knows. He should know it verbatim, off the top of his head. He should be able to freestyle the Bible. Why did he write down scripture that doesn't exist? That question deserves an answer, doesn't it? He didn't need to. He could have found any verse in that Bible to admonish Donald Trump, but he couldn't. So he made it up. You know it. And here's the thing, Bob, regardless of what you think, in your animated sense of self-righteousness, my condemnation of the Pope, I can do off the top of my head. And I can use your words to do it. As you said, he knows the Bible 100 times more than I do, which means he had no reason to lie. I'm the one with one, and I'm telling the truth here. It is one mistake. He'll make another because he thinks this won't be enough. But when you have to condemn Donald Trump and there are other people putting batteries on your back, you always make the mistake. Ask Eric Swalwell. They thought that he was untouchable until he wasn't. And as Rama likes to say, the Trump curse is real. I used to be a doubter, but I know it's real. We'll be back. More news, more views. We'll talk about Justin Fairfax when we return. It's Reese on the radio.
Listen to WTIC News Talk 1080 on the free Odyssey app. Download and like WTIC today for alerts on special programming.
So, as many of you know, when I first joined WTIC, I was in a town called Woodbridge, Virginia. It is part of Prince William County and relatively known as a pretty liberal neck of the woods. It covers Manassas, Woodbridge, parts of Lorton is Fairfax County. There's another town that's a little north of there, and for the love of goodness, I can't remember what it is. But anyway, it just sort of runs across, but it's a pretty good region. And I'd known really nothing about that neck of the woods until I moved there roughly about 2012. But I got to know Virginia politics somewhat well. You're 25 miles south of Washington, D.C., so that's where the game is. And it's very seldom Virginia was in the news unless it was Fairfax County, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun County, where Leesburg and Ashburn is, Springfield, in that area. And although most business is handled south of Woodbridge in Richmond, all of the news was in the Arlington area. And one of the big stories there during my time was the story of Governor Ralph Northam, who had become national news thanks to Donald Trump, President of the United States. Northam had become a huge part of the controversy or the conversation about partial birth abortions. And Ralph Northam, on a radio program, talked about how they would handle a baby who had survived an abortion. And he famously said that, in essence, they would let the baby die. And that created a very, very big controversy. Many people said that it sank any likelihood that a Democrat would become governor of of Virginia. So what happened, Glenn Youngkin becomes the governor of Virginia. Anyway, but his lieutenant governor also drew some fire as well. But I don't want to forget that his lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, the late Justin Fairfax, sort of came into the spotlight of Ralph Northam's controversy based upon a college yearbook that Northam's opponent, Ed Gillespie, remember him? Ed Gillespie was running against Ralph Northam for governor, and the Oppo research team did not find Ralph Northam's college yearbook. Because in that, talk about sinking a campaign, in that yearbook, there was a picture of Ralph Northam. It is debated on who Ralph Northam is in the picture, because in the picture there are two individuals, one in blackface, and I mean all of blackface, and another one in a Klan hoodie. And that was it. Ralph Northam was sunk. And many people called for him to resign. He refused. I'm going to tell you, I didn't like Ralph Northam, but I give him props. He refused to let that story get the best of me. He told him, right, I'm going nowhere. You can forget about it. I've apologized. It's over. What made it worse, and it should have made it far worse, was during his press conference when he had to address it, because first he said, I don't remember it. It may have been me. No, it wasn't me. During that press conference, he said, and I quote, the only thing that he did that came close to that was during a dance contest, he impersonated Michael Jackson and put, wait for it, brown shoe polish on his face. He gave that to the press. During a national press conference, he said he put on brown shoe polish on his face. In essence, kind of giving the good on who in the picture was in blackface, but said he put brown shoe polish on his face in a Michael Jackson impersonation contest. And I have to applaud the reporter who had the wherewithal to ask him, you said you were in the Michael Jackson impersonation contest. Just for context, can you still do the moonwalk? I'm just applauding him. No one other than Reese on the radio would have asked that. That's why I commend the reporter. He said, can you still do the moonwalk? Ralph Northam said, I'm sorry, excuse me. Can you still do the moonwalk? It was like that time when Cartman in the movie, and he grabs the megaphone. Can you still do the moonwalk? And his wife, who I still hate for this reason, mumbled to her husband, that would be inappropriate. I was like, shut up! Do it! Do it! He did not. But a moment lost in history. Trust me, it would have been everywhere, and I would have saved it on my phone. It would have been my screensaver. Nonetheless, I'm sorry. I have to move on. You know how much I love this story, clearly, right? I sound like I really love this story, because I do. So after that, you may have seen this online, especially on X. None other than former President Joe Biden chimed in and said that Ralph Northam must resign. Ralph Northam must resign, and Justin Elicker is, I'm sorry, Justin Elicker. Why am I talking about? Justin Fairfax is the leader that we need. He said that. And then we get the news today that Justin Fairfax, in a quote-unquote messy divorce, shot and killed his estranged wife and took his own life inside their home and was found by their 16-year-old son. The part that's crazy about this is, again, the irony. Justin Fairfax was a strong proponent of gun control because he didn't think that you could be trusted with a gun. Funny how that works. Justin Fairfax, during his election, the one he won in 2017, where he became the lieutenant governor, was on MSNBC and spoke to Joy Reid. Here is what he said to Joy Reid in 2017 about his election.
I think we're entering a new era of politics, new era of hope. People are tired of the politics of personal attack, and they had a choice on Tuesday. We had the other side that was trying to take us down a very dark political road, and people chose hope over fear. They voted their aspirations and not their anxieties, and what they chose was the bright light of hope. And Charlottesville really was an opportunity for people to see what the choices were that were at stake on Tuesday. And so on election night, Virginia is the match that sparks the wildfire of progressive change all across the country. And that's because the people really are in a place where they want to choose more hopeful politics. They want people who are helping us to rise to the better angels of our nature. And I'm so excited about this new era in the Commonwealth and really in the country.
Well, they certainly got somebody positive in you, sir. Fairfax, the new lieutenant governor-elect. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Thanks. I think we're
That's Justin Fairfax. And again, I don't know what to say. I feel awful for that teenage boy to see that. Some of the reports that I saw that may have caused this tragic event was that the wife, Dr. Fairfax, had placed cameras inside the home. They were already estranged, separated. In Virginia, they have a weird law where the two individuals are not married but cohabitating in the same home. But it was contentious between the both of them, and she had started putting cameras up in the home. And it is believed that when police arrived and found the body of the mother, Dr. Fairfax, and then Justin Fairfax in another room, and found him with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They then checked the camera footage that was in the home, and they saw the entire thing as it played out. Again, I feel awful for the 16-year-old boy. I don't know where he's going to go, who his next of kin is, but 16 is an impressionable age. And he probably witnessed a lot of that fighting between his parents. And to find his mother, probably didn't even know where his father was, but to find his mother probably broke his heart. And we wish him the best Godspeed. I hope that he has a very strong foundation around him, although he is going to need far more than that. He is going to need God and prayers and well wishes. So we pray for you, young man. We do. We truly do. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the Radio.
It's Reese on the Radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, don't forget, 5 o'clock, we have the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. She's calling in. She's got a speech tonight at Yale at 7 p.m. We'll preview that for you when she calls in. We'll talk to her about a whole bunch of things, of course, about the administration, talk about her having the job, the exclusive job of ending her job. I want to talk a little bit about that with her as well and celebrate her cabinet pick as the Secretary of Education with the administration. I want to talk about that. I want to respond to this comment that was made in the chat room about the Pope. And again, this is something that people need to kind of understand, that how sometimes people set the premise for something and not realize exactly what they're doing. And it's reckless. A lot of us do it. And I don't know if I'm guilty of it. I try not to be, but I may be. I don't want to say that I don't make this same mistake, but you shouldn't do it. Anita, who's in the chat room, and Anita says, the Pope is, I want to read her comment first. She says, the Pope is only a man and is servant of the Lord and not the head of the Lord's church. To which Bob responded, Anita, the Pope is only a man, as is Donald Trump. The Pope is the head of the Catholic Church. Trump is the head of America. Their roles are different. And yes, their roles are different. Of course there are. And I meant to say this, but what roles are you talking about? I wrote rules. Thank you for pointing that out, Bob. I meant to say roles. What roles are you talking about? Who determines what those roles are? And why are these role makers the authority? They both have different roles? Then I would go so far as, why is one interfering in the other's role? Right? So, if you want to say stay in each other's lane, or, if you're making this a shut up and dribble kind of thing, you kind of are going in the wrong direction here. I am not suggesting, plus I never would suggest, that the Pope can't talk about public affairs, foreign policy, the policies of this country versus another. But you have to be consistent as the Pope. The Pope said nothing about this regime, the Iranian regime, nothing about it, nothing about its murder, nothing about its afflictions on its people. It barely celebrated the Iranian people who were celebrating their freedom in the streets. He never mentioned it. He took this opportunity to go after Trump. This is a guy who freed slaves and then got the admonishment of the Pope for his deeds. I find that odd. Who are these roles? Who's the keeper of the roles? Who makes these decisions for these people? I don't trust them. And as far as I'm concerned, they're too arbitrary for me. The president can say whatever he wants to whomever he wants. He is the president of the United States. He is the leader of the free world. When the president of the United States says something, everybody in the world listens, no matter who the leader is. When it's Putin, he pays attention to Trump. When it's Xi Jinping, they listen to Trump. They are not listening to the Pope. You think Xi Jinping is sitting around there going, hey, the Pope said, really? Xi Jinping? You know nothing about China, my friend. So, I'll just say, you're trying to put the Pope on a pedestal. I get that. But for what? And it's nothing other than political. It's to suggest that Donald Trump doesn't have a right to defend himself or defend his policies. And I'll say this before we go to break. One of Donald Trump's biggest gripes about Barack Obama, and he made this very clear back in 2016, he said, I thought Barack Obama was going to be a cheerleader and a supporter of this country. He did not do that. And that's what Donald Trump's doing. He is a supporter and a cheerleader for this country. He will stand by it and defend it. That's the oath he took. Let's get our first check of traffic and weather. Mark Christopher's here. He is at the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. How we doing, sir? All right. Programming note, Devon Ward unfortunately had to cancel. However, Mark in West Hartford is pulling up in a second, so we will have him. We've got John Silver checking on a story that I just got from Devon Ward. So it looks like the reason why he had to cancel is because it looks like there was another death in a correctional facility in New Haven, a New Haven correctional facility. And he is down there checking it out. I do not know the details. It is suspected. I don't even know what it is. I don't want to say what it's suspected, but there is a death that's related inside. This would be the 10th so far. So we need to reschedule. We're working on that. But Mark in West Hartford, I don't want to waste his gas getting all the way up here because it's literally a minute or so away. So we'll bring him in to talk a little bit about the details of what we know so far. And outside of that, we've got the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who is going to be calling up on the program just after 5:07. And we'll talk to her about her speech at Yale tonight at 7 p.m. So stay tuned for that. Okay, with that, let's get another check of traffic and weather. Mark Christopher is here. He is in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right. Like I said, unfortunately, we were supposed to have Devon Ward here, but it appears that there is a death at the New Haven Correctional Facility. And the person who was supposed to join me on that interview did arrive, and he is none other than Mark from West Hartford. And we can say your last name, right? I never really.
Mark Walsh.
Mark Walsh. Move your microphone up so they can hear you here. There you go.
So it's funny on social media. You know, I always get hammered. I got my keyboard warrior. I'm out there when I go to Board of Ed meetings. I have to not only tell them my name, I got to tell them where I live.
Wow.
I don't care. Come on. You can come by. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. It is what it is. I mean, I don't know why everybody has this. You know, they're thinking like, oh my God, he's afraid, or he doesn't want anybody to know who he is. I'm out there.
No, you are. You have been. There were two people in my, I can now honestly say 3 people in my career in radio that were the first people to reach out to me when I came into town. And that was JC, who you know I always celebrate at the end of the show, my good friend Gene Pinkham up in Boston, and you. And I told you from the moment you and I spoke, I said Gene Pinkham would be proud of you, because Gene Pinkham was kind of a guy who, he was like he was my guy behind the computer who told me everything that was going on. You were one of the people out there that was on the ground. I started seeing your videos of like filming stuff that was going on, even from the most, I would say the most minute infractions, like the scooter scandal that were all over. People thought that was a nothing burger, but that was a big story.
So I think God has cursed you too, like he has me. As much as we're blessed, we're cursed with this ability to see it all.
Yeah.
I read it, I hear it, whether it's on the radio, TV. Oh my God, I'm sitting there. I can't tell you how many things I read. Well, sometimes people who follow me on X,
they know.
They know I'm like putting little snippets up. You got to be careful. You can't have them too long. They're going to lose interest. But I just see it all the time. What I'm reading, some said, all the straw man and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I've
seen it my entire life, but a lot came from my father.
Okay.
And remember, I sent you that, he was one of the smartest guys I know. He left the house at 15.
Yeah.
At 16, he joined the Merchant Marines, the Navy, never looked back. And that's as far as he went with his education. But, oh my God, he would point it out to me. He's going, look at this guy. And I'd see him like he'd get a mayor. If there was a mayor, we were at a function, he'd bring the mayor over and he would just destroy. His tactic was a little more diplomatic than me.
Yes, you are a firebrand.
But he was he would follow up and, there was that moment of silence. I don't know how to be quiet. Fred from Middletown's always like, dude, let it breathe. He's always going like, let it breathe. I just can't do it for some reason.
I'm glad you told that story about your dad, because a lot of people don't know that this has been instilled in you to sort of push back on, people always say the old saying, you can't fight City Hall. Your dad gave that into you and said, no, man, it's your absolute constitutional right to put those people who are supposed to be representing you on blast when they're not doing their job. And there are sometimes I will say, Mark, and everybody knows it, and I know you know it, because I'll tell you, I was like, this guy's going to blow the whole thing up, isn't he? It's that people have always said that about you.
Just can't help it.
But here's what it is, and that this is the part that I know you make difficult, and I have to explain to people about you, is that Mark isn't supposed to play it safe. That's not his role. If he were to change now or to play ball in any way, you would all notice and you would call him a fake immediately, right? You know what I mean? So if you were to change horses midstream now, who would believe you, right? So you would never be a champion of anything if you were the master of one. You know what I mean? Like there is no reason for you, and I've learned this with you, because you and I, oh goodness, we've had so many online fights.
Let's put our texts online so all you people can see them. You're pretty good.
But we go, they are.
Entertaining.
But as I always told you, I said, listen, I know exactly who you are. Sometimes I always say this, like, not defend you. I have to explain you to people because they don't understand, and I know it to be true, they're triggered by you. And I think what I tell them is, you got to check yourself if what Mark says bothers you, because it shouldn't if he's insignificant. You know what I mean? If Mark has no real relevance in any of it, nothing he says should affect you. So if it does, you got to be introspective.
I shouldn't live rent-free in so many heads.
Anyone's.
If I was nobody or didn't have anything. If I wasn't coming with it, why would they even think of me or consider me? They would just,
Yeah, exactly. Or there's a low threshold for them,
But, I've always, using the word unaffiliated, it's not just with party affiliation.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not affiliated with anywhere. I was a union guy, right?
Yeah.
I was in a couple unions. And but the fire department union is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Well, last year, just to show you, like, I don't care. I just always got to do the right thing. I had a fellow firefighter call up and say, man, you haven't been here in a number of years. You got to come see this firehouse. And I went to Engine 9 on New Britain Avenue. I brought my camera in there. I was shocked. The videos I posted online prompted OSHA to go there the next day.
Wow.
The city of Hartford spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just not fixing that one, but the next one. So now check this out. Guess who was mad at me? Not the firefighters that got to live in those places.
Exactly.
Because they do live there.
That's right.
They eat and sleep. That's where they station everything. That's all their personal belongings. The union. And I was here like, I had to go like, wait a second. You should have been doing what I did.
Yeah.
You should have been posting pictures. You could have used it as a negotiating tool. So you got to I just can't play that game in between. If I see something wrong, like I said, I don't want to go back to the curse, but it is. It's like if I see something, I got to say something. But the whole thing is not everybody wants to listen.
That's true.
I texted you that the other day.
Yeah.
That old saying, see something, say something. Guess what? There's a lot of people don't want you
They
to
don't
say
want
anything.
you to say anything.
Don't say nothing.
But you know what? This is, you remember my old sort of gripe with Oprah Winfrey. And I always say, like, Oprah Winfrey took her money and she sent it to Africa. And yeah, she should be allowed to do whatever she is. But I said, when she found out that there was a problem with education in Chicago, to me, I equate that to, she saw a kid running in the middle of the highway and she just let him run. She didn't grab them and do that. That's your thing. That's kind of your curse, is that you can never let anything slide. When you see it, you immediately, you're a pit bull. You're like,
if I had Oprah money, I would have founded that school. But guess what?
Right.
I would also put a czar in place to make sure that school was in place. You just can't. You can throw your money around and say, I did this and that. But if she really cared about those kids, she would have made sure somebody was overseeing that she trusted. She would have implanted, embedded somebody she trusted.
What I want to make sure that everybody understands, and this is where this is the nuance, and it shouldn't be a nuance about you. No one should ever say anything horrible about Mark from West Hartford. Let me tell you what. No. Let me tell you why, because this is important, right? You have faced more criticism than you got praise. Is that honest? Come on.
Beyond criticism.
Okay, exactly. You have been absolutely attacked.
Do you know how many people? I asked you this. I asked Len Bestoff. There's a few people in the media that I respect.
Yeah.
And they've been around a long time. I asked Tom Shattuck, too.
Yeah.
Have you ever had, and I know you're critical of elected officials or appointed officials.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody go to the police station and put a complaint against anything you said about them?
No, exactly.
I've had that done twice by the same elected official, Mary Fay. She should be in jail. But the police department didn't want to move it on up into the court. But anyway, I don't want to get
No, I'm just saying. I want to make this point. I want to make this point because this is very valid to that whole thing with Mary Fay. Is that saying you have faced more criticism than you have praise? And in this business of working with news media or an exposer, as you are, right, sort of doing that, usually it is waking up every morning hoping that people respect, if not admire, the work that you're trying to do for your fellow man. You would think that somebody would say to you, Mark, thank you for what you do. But you don't get that, and you get the admonishment. Here's the thing. This is what people need to recognize, okay? With everything that you have endured, from the name calling to the, literally the attacks, all of it, the besmirching, all of it, you still wake up every morning and you do it again, which is the point that everyone needs to recognize, is that you are not wavering because you are trying to receive accolades. You already know what you're doing is right. You know what I mean?
I don't need it.
Exactly.
That's the other thing is like people go like, oh, you just want airtime. You want FaceTime. You want likes and follows and everything. And those are important because I want the message to get out.
Correct.
If somebody reposts my stuff, it's not because it makes me feel good.
Right.
I could give it, you know what?
Yeah.
I really don't care.
Oh, no, that's what I said.
I just want the message to get out. Every time somebody reposts it, or like I got a guy, Tom Barilli. I don't know him. Mm-hmm. He's from Newsmax. He's got 70,000 followers. He reposts my stuff all the time.
Wow.
Now, the message is getting out when that happens.
And that's the important thing, because the only thing you want is, and that's the part, that's your biggest gripe, is that these stories are not getting the attention from the news media. Exactly.
the latest one, and we could go on because there's
you're going to stick around.
But I do want to say, like, the latest one I'm working on, and I still can't get anybody to like go after it, is this guy, Wayne Benjamin, Hartford insider, buys a piece of property, an old diner, blighted, $37,000, Right now, he worked his way up. He's got $8 million grant to fix this place up.
Why so much?
That's $4,500. So I don't expect you to know construction, but for those of you that know construction, you could build a luxury, I'm talking mansion.
Yeah, in Hartford.
For like $1,500 a square foot. No, just anywhere. I'm talking about a luxury mansion.
Right.
1,500 square foot. This guy's renovating, not breaking it down and rebuilding it.
Yeah.
He's renovating a diner for $4,500 a square foot, and I can't get one person in the media to go investigate. They don't even have a tenant in there to go take over the restaurant once it's built.
And it's an old school diner.
It's $8 million. Oh, when you see it where there's no parking.
I saw it.
It's in a blighted neighborhood, and I can't, I'm hoping maybe today, repeating it for the 20th time, I'll get somebody.
Yeah.
I got Mark Fitch. He said he's looking into it.
Right.
But I'm talking about we need big eyes on it.
You do.
We need the news cameras down there. Find out where that money is. $8 million? And I'm going to bring you there. You're not even going to believe what you're going to see. You're going to go, what are you talking about?
I saw the video that you put up of it.
Look at what it costs to build a brand new diner. An old-fashioned diner from scratch. It's like $4 million. And that's like high-end. I'm talking about.
Why do you think? Do you think that there was some chicanery going on with this?
It happened with it. So good. Again, you're kind of blessed you didn't come up here during COVID, first of all.
Goodness gracious.
And then even before that and a little after. But you heard about the soccer stadium.
Sure.
And there again, these people could have walked from City Hall to go check on the progress of that construction company. Instead, they kept giving this guy
more and more money.
More and more money. It's a 2-minute drive in the car, never mind a 10-minute walk. You think somebody from City Hall will go, hey, let's just go hand him the check and go see how the progress is going. It's down the street from City Hall. They're handing this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Why does it? Can I ask you this? Because you know what you got this criticism about this story. People say, Mark, why do you care about this? Please explain to them why you care.
Well, first of all, Hartford, I was born in 1960, so you kind of know, I kind of had the good – I really was born at a great time. I wasn't getting drafted. I had the innocence of the 60s and 70s.
Sure.
I had wonderful memories. My mom taking me on a bus to downtown Hartford, literally, and I'd been in New York City because we had relatives, but for me, it was my own little New York City. Get on a bus, say Galaxy, Fox, toy stores, Planters Peanut Store, the record store, all that. Grew up with that. It was, did we have – some blighted areas.
Sure.
We had projects. It's a capital city. Of course we did. But I always say we only had pockets of bad areas back then in those decades, 60s, 70s, and 80s that I can refer to personally. And then now we only have pockets of good areas. And usually that you got to have a lot of wealth if you want to be in that pocket.
Sure.
The rest of the city is shot. And I just knew what it once was. And I saw it devolve so fast. And the one thing I always hate is there's no accountability. They come and they go. Luke Bronin isn't answering for anything he did, and what is he doing? He's running for another position.
Yeah.
You should run out of the state for what you did to Hartford. But this is where we live.
Yeah.
Look at Dan Malloy, Nancy Wyman. Nobody even talks about them. But when they were in office, oh, boy, they love the state and the city. He's up in Maine teaching. He could care less. He's got a house down in hotty-toddy down by the shore. These people, they come and they go. There's no accountability.
And the ruin is left behind.
See, I remember. I know sometimes I like when you say it's not really a grudge. It's really a reminder of what they did. It's not really I hold a grudge. Right. It's just up here, and I'm going to remind people of what these people did.
Yeah, and the part of that is, and that's something you and I talked about very early in our friendship is that, what you're trying to get people to understand is that this complicit sort of behavior by everyone and just sort of shrugs their shoulders and says, well, that's what they do. You sort of have this attitude that says, no, we shouldn't allow that. Like, we've got to bring attention to it. It's not going to stop if we just sit by and just shrug our shoulders and say that's what we do.
And I hate the expression, well, it's always been done this way. Guess what? No, it hasn't. It might have been always done this way at a certain point in time.
Right.
Forward.
Yeah.
But don't say it's always been this way.
Yeah. No, because I know that it hasn't.
Yeah. Can I just say something that I repeated here in case nobody ever heard it? And I used to keep it in my wallet when you say, you wake up every day with, and my credo is risk being hated for doing and saying the right thing.
That's right.
So although I do want, I would appreciate a pat in the back here and there. It's nice.
Yeah, of course.
You know what? If I got somebody hating me so bad, then I know I did something right.
Dude,
I treat you so bad.
There's a part of that. There's a part of that.
Then I did good that day.
You know what my old saying is, right? I await the hate. Right? You know what I'm saying? That's what you got to do. You got to sort of take that as that technically may be your pat on the back.
Yeah.
Is that if they're hating on you, it's obviously because you're doing something. You're making some noise.
Yeah.
Because, or they have a low threshold, as I like to say. We need to take a break. Well, let's get to
What do you mean take a break?
Well, we got to go to weather and traffic. We got bills to pay. Mark Christopher is here. He is in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Look at that. Mark the Shark, Mark in West Hartford. Look at that. On the air together.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, hang out for a little bit, Mark from West Hartford. Mark Walsh is here with us. And make sure you follow him on X. We got to get you an actual website. That's what we need to do for all of your reporting. You got so many nice things said about you here in the chat room. I told you a lot of people. You have always believed. It was like, do these people really like me? No, dude, they do. They absolutely do like you. But, Mark, you get to hang out, of course, in one of my favorite segments of the show. And it's the stupidest thing I read today.
Could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, Mark. Do you know anything about it?
No, I never got into it. My
you
wife
never did
all that. She went
so
to
your
the
wife
theater.
knows it.
Yeah, she knows it. Yeah.
So if she's listening, she is going to be absolutely outraged at this.
Okay.
I wasn't a big Rocky Horror Picture Show guy until I got to see my first performance in Manhattan. At some rinky-dink theater, and I had a blast. I didn't understand the whole thing, but when I got to it, I had one. I mean, it was really, really fun because, of course, as many people know, it's interactive. The audience interacts with the film. Some people perform in front of the film, usually. That's how it goes. Well, guess what? Broadway is now featuring the Rocky Horror Picture film. But this is going to blow your mind. According to the New York Post, audiences for the Broadway revival of the Rocky Horror Picture Show are being confronted with buzz-killing warnings against shouting out hilarious callbacks, tossing around iconic props, and the main reasons are the show's enduring popularity. They're saying no more throwing toast when the actors raise their glasses. They can't toss rice during the wedding scene. That's all verboten. Forget jumping to the left or stepping to the right during the dancing of the Time Warp song. All of it is being completely eradicated. That makes no sense. The whole point of watching Rocky Horror Picture Show in the theater is to be a part of it. It is an interactive Broadway or show, movie and show. But they've completely killed the stupid thing because Broadway doesn't know how to have fun anymore. This is the reason why I hate New York. That's why it's so over.
There wasn't a Reese or Mark from West Hartford in the room when they made these decisions. He goes, what? You're going to spend all this money to produce this?
Yes!
Are you out of your mind?
Who would go? Like, if you're going to appeal to the Rocky Horror Picture fans and you show up there and people have got, like, bread and rice in their pockets and they get searched and they go, that's not allowed at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. What? I'm like, give me my money back. That's the experience. That's the reason why people go. Talk about not understanding.
So Gallagher couldn't do
it's
dramatic then? Never again.
Mark Christopher is in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Mark, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Please tell me you've been to one.
I'm sorry, Reese, I missed that.
That's okay. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Have you ever been to one? Like
no,
a performance?
I have not. I know. I'm a loser. I don't
a loser.
I don't do a lot of movies. And
I know.
Never been to Rocky
this is
Horror.
more of an experience. But
right.
Yeah. So, okay. I was just wondering. I should have known it was
Reese,
movie related.
I'm sorry.
But it's music.
I let you down
and
again.
it had Meatloaf in it. You don't know Meatloaf is in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Tim Curry.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for Meat. Never really was into his music.
No.
The songs were like 4 minutes too long for me. That's all.
I love Meatloaf. I'm sorry.
But Meat is great if you're a wedding DJ.
Yes.
And you need to, to relieve yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You throw that on, people go crazy.
Oh, yeah. You could go out. You could cook a burger.
You don't even have to, exactly. You don't even have to walk fast to the bathroom. You can just you can be very leisurely, go in there, wash your hands really good, come back, and the song's still playing.
No
That's
doubt.
a great thing. No doubt. But I do respect him. From what I understand, he was a really good dude. He was a really good guy.
Fantastic guy.
That's what I heard.
That's AUDIENhearing.com.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, we are back. Our good friend and I would say compadre, Mark Walsh of Mark from West Hartford. Follow him on X if you are on X. and he, of course, is a person who calls in here. I consider you kind of like my correspondent out there because you got a lot of stories that I piggyback because you kind of go into the inner workings of what's going on. Speaking of that, another person who's very politically agile and all over the news, our good friend, yours and mine, none other than Simsbury Joe is on the line because I knew when you got here he was going to jump on the phone. What's going on, Joe? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I screwed you. There you go. Hey, Joe.
First of all, I've got to say, Rocky Horror Picture Show, that was so much fun when I was young.
Wasn't it?
But I didn't realize that the circus was back in town with this clown in front of you.
All right. Hey, Joe, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Call again.
But seriously, so I'm going to take some people to task here, and maybe they're listening, maybe they're just people on X.
Okay.
I like Mark. Not that I like Mark. I am like Mark in that we have both been in Connecticut our entire lives. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy by the name of Mike Bogoslawski, and he was on different TV networks here in Connecticut, and he was the consumer advocate. He was, I'm Mike Bogoslawski, I'm in your corner. And what he would do is he'd go after businesses that were screwing the consumer over.
Yeah.
And he would get involved, and he would try to fix it, and he would raise awareness. And he was kind of, I would describe him as a folksy, nice, grandfatherly type person, and everyone seemed to love Mike. And the issue that I have is that when it comes to Mark is not the person who takes that same kind of approach.
Right.
But what he's doing is even more valuable than what Mike Bogoslawski did for years. And I think it's representative, too, that we as a society here in Connecticut, there's people that I know for a fact, because they've told me, reject what Mark says because of the way that he says it, and they find him aggressive. Well, did people ever think that we used to have the greatest state here? It didn't matter if it was a Democrat or Republican who was in charge. People always seemed to kind of find that middle reasonable ground. And now we're in a situation where our state is a mess. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because people want the Mike Bogoslawski approach, which doesn't work, when they should be embracing the Mark Walsh approach. Because Mark's hit rate, and this is where I'll leave it, in terms of his accuracy, is staggering.
Yep.
His hit rate is far better than any local TV network that I can even think of, because we're always talking about how they're not accurate, they're spinning it. Mark is right on.
Yeah.
So more people need to embrace him and say, hey, this is a new time. These people have taken advantage of our good nature and our goodwill as people in the state of Connecticut and done a number on us. And we are blessed to have someone like Mark to be out there, putting his name out there and his reputation out there and fighting for everyone, regardless of party, regardless of political affiliation. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, no, keep going. Leave it at that. Really? How much longer to the next break?
We got a while. Joe, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And it's good. Everything you said, spot on. Ditto over here,
thank
man.
You, Joe.
You're 100% accurate, man. We'll talk to you soon. We'll get you in that chair. We'll get you in this chair soon.
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. But he did mention something that made me think, like, so I do work hard, but sometimes I get stuff fast. Like, look at you were the first in the state to talk about Magnano getting fired. Maybe you beat everybody by 30 minutes, but you did, and that's because I got the call.
That's right.
Saying, guess what? He got fired, and guess why?
Yeah.
Monday's his probation.
That's right. You were the first. Yeah, you were.
And I called you on a break. And so whether it's a crystal ball that I see or I see things like I said, or guess what? Thankfully, I've got a lot of people who are like-minded like me. Mm-hmm. They don't want to get involved. Hey, listen. You got to check this out.
The weirdness
they trust me. Like the mother.
That's true.
And I'll let you say this. The biggest feather in my cap was last year.
Yeah. When
the mother of the child who was tickled by the teacher who subsequently is arrested took a plea deal.
Yeah.
So it was all legit.
Which only ended up being a waterfall of other accusations thereafter.
And I'm thinking about, like, not only how brave that mother was to trust me through another source, because that source told me, like, look at what we did together. Because, again, you were the first. I had to trust you now to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And we did.
And the news media never covered it.
To this day, the only thing they did was say that he took a plea deal.
Yeah.
But during that, like, little sentence you might see in the paper, it didn't even do the follow-up or it led up to a plea deal.
Which is so crazy, right? Because even John Silva just did a story today about the guy who was caught on videotape with the 4-year-old. Like, that's a big story, which is, to me, says, it's funny how that story is news all over Connecticut, but the story about this parent that we're talking about, which ended up leading to other cases. I think by the end we were at 5 or 6 other parents who were coming forward. How is that not turned into front page news? And we gave it to everybody.
Look how titillating. You had a rabbi in a private Jewish school where they're paying $25,000 a kid.
Exactly.
Elementary. That's a story right there.
Exactly. There were so many things that were associated with, but no one would touch it with a 10-foot pole, which again astonishes me. But if not, for one, you bringing it up, you bringing it to this show. By the way, everyone else who I can only say with regards to that was either ridiculously scared to bring up that story or irresponsible to not want to bring justice to not just that mother, but to the 5 other parents and children who were affected by it. And then today to be standing up there seeing all these politicians and news media outlets talking about homeschooling and how important we must be to, in saving the kids.
Responsibility, but there isn't. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but there were like several people that the mother, and again, she trusted me to put him in, and they didn't want to touch it.
Yeah.
They had an opportunity to talk to her and didn't do it.
It was crazy that all of that broke. But, Roseanne and I yesterday were talking about the chain of command as it pertains to what Mark Kelly and Elise Slotkin were doing, talking about to disobey an order by the President of the United States. And she was breaking down how the chain of command would never allow Donald Trump to give an order to somebody who is a boot on the ground individual. That's not the way it works. In that conversation, you said something in the debate about ICE and this state's refusal and just recently passing a law saying that Connecticut refuses to cooperate with ICE, which, again, is a toothless bill that they passed in the Senate. I think it's called Senate Bill 397 or whatever. Talking about how the local government or local police are not going to cooperate with ICE. You had a very important point of view on that. One, because you have at least some background in understanding law enforcement.
Lots of cops.
And how this works.
Lots of cops in my family, my friends. And
tell everybody what you said to me on the phone, which makes all of this nonsense.
And what you should do, as whatever town you live in Connecticut, they might not. There are police officers that get assigned to these agencies, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. In my town, I have a friend of mine's son. He has been for years assigned to DEA. But there are also cops assigned inside ICE.
That's right.
Whether you want to use the word embedded, they're trying to learn from each other because then they could each help each other out because they know the jurisdiction, all that, and the territory. But
this
when
idea.
You hear a politician saying our police department will not, well, while that mayor or whoever's saying it, senator, representative, they might be telling you that our police aren't going to work with them. Well, guess what? You might have 1, 2, 3 cops already working inside with them. Not alongside. I'm talking about they're inside with them.
Embedded. Because, again,
FBI. I'm talking about all the agencies.
Exactly. Because people are treating, like, when you hear these stories in the news about how ICE agents took down this ring or that ring, all that other stuff, that's usually cooperation of the local police department because someone's already embedded, because they are on the ground floor. It is like they understand that community, that exactly how the logistics, if you will, of the operation. These are not federal agents out of the ether who are now swooping down on Connecticut. They have an embedded relationship with the local cops already.
And there is a mutual respect. I mean, that whole, if you have, and again, I'm not going to tell you who in my family are cops, but there is this mutual respect they have for each other. So when you see
brothers.
There's gaslighting trying to go on where, there's a separation. Yeah. Listen, law enforcement's law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, they're enforcing the law. I mean, so it's okay to enforce the law with traffic violations, but you could come here illegally. You could do other. I mean, where do you draw the line? It's all one encompassing.
Right.
It's law enforcement.
But they're playing the naive, again, I called it the naivete. Roseanne calls it the willful ignorance of the people of the state, because they'll hear Lamont put out this statement and say, we are not going to cooperate. They already are.
Worse yet, you're going to get chiefs of police departments saying the same thing.
Yeah.
While they're a man, a woman from their department might be assigned.
Knowing damn well it is.
And always remember this. I say it all the time, whether it's a chief of the fire department, chief of the police department, all they are politicians in uniforms now.
Yep.
As soon as they leave the union, as soon as they're flying with eagles like that, you've lost them.
Yeah.
So you can get enamored with gold stars and bugles and white hats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Stripes on their sleeves. That means nothing to me. You are no longer a firefighter. See, now I've got really good friends that made it up to be a chief.
Yeah.
They will always be firefighters in my head because they always remained a firefighter.
Right.
But that's not the norm.
It's not always the case.
It's not always.
That's true. But I was so glad when you mentioned it. I was like, you know what? When Mark comes in, I want to make sure that we make that point. That, again, we get sort of blinded by this idea of these people doing these press conferences and saying, we will not cooperate with the feds. And the feds are sitting back and just going, yeah, sure you're not. That's why we got O'Malley and Tom and, we got all these people working with us.
And how do they think, like ICE, let's take the Newington car wash.
Yeah, exactly.
They knew about Newington, that little section somehow.
Like the
they
feds
had the knowledge and the
right.
data all by themselves with no help.
Right.
From Newington Police, State Police, any of the other police departments surrounding that
exactly.
might have tied in with the other car washes throughout the state.
Exactly, because sure enough they did.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, did they think that they just got lucky that day?
Yeah.
Like they didn't have anybody assisting them that knew about that going on?
Well, that was, remember, one of the big
people.
stories in New Haven, why did the NGO end up protesting the Hamden police about the raid at the other Optimo? Because they said that usually, and I have the guy on tape, he said, usually they tip us off so we can hide these people. And they blame the Hamden police. I said, why would they blame the Hamden police? Why? Because the ICE agents, the federal agents, coordinated with the police department saying, hey, we're going to this Optimo to go pick up these people. And everybody said, no problem, we'll clear the way.
Do I have time to say something about John Larson? Because if you notice, since the arrest, and I came out, and you
Absolutely.
listeners know, when they were arrested, people didn't. All they knew they were arrested. John Larson came, not Bob Larson. John Larson came in.
I do know that.
And John Larson came in, manufactured all that outrage.
Yeah.
And I had a tape. I should replay it on X where I'm asking him, like, did you know what some of the arrests were for?
Yep.
Violating restraining orders?
Yep.
I
knew nothing about it.
Nothing about it.
Because it was all about getting the press.
It had nothing to do with at least find out what they were arrested for.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, they all had fake Social Security cards, which cracks me up because he's on record saying there's no fraud in the Social Security Administration.
That's exactly right.
But you notice he's gone. He's not talking about that car wash anymore.
100% right. He's completely left that.
I called him out. What's he going to do now? He's got to move on.
Mark Walsh, Mark of West Hartford, you got to go look him up on X. You got to follow him because I'm telling you, he is doing a lot of very, very good work out there.
Where's the camera? Thanks a lot, Rick. So my friend Rick from Myrtle Beach, he was the neighborhood bully.
Yeah.
He just bullied me now. He goes, good job, pickle washer. Because that's a term I use on X all the time. So, Rick.
God bless you, Rick.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, listen, like I said.
Bullying me again, 66 years old, the same neighborhood bully is sending me texts like that.
Hey, that means he's a good friend. Mark from West Hartford. Again, Mark from West Hartford, Mark Walsh. Check him out on X. Make sure you show him some love. And again, everything he usually reports, I end up piggybacking anyway. So he's keeping me honest because he's got his nose to the ground. We'll be back. Linda McMahon is our guest coming up, so stand by for that. For now, we'll get into the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Mark Christopher, another Mark. He's getting you home. He's at the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Hey, buddy.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, folks. Reese on the radio here, WTIC News Talk 1080. Coming up, I get the opportunity of a lifetime because I get to speak to somebody I was very much a big fan of when she joined the Trump administration back in 2017 as the small business administrator. Of course, you know her as the hometown girl, Linda McMahon. She is going to be on the program shortly. I'm going to grab her a little bit after we do the BPS Lawyers and Traffic Center update, and we'll talk to her about her speech that's going to happen at Yale this evening. Talk about a little bit about this thing that happened with the McKinley Elementary School and Thompson High School, and see if we could get the message out to the folks who missed that speech, because I think that was wrong, and I really wanted her here so that you can finally hear what she was trying to do and convey in her History Rocks Civics tour. I think that's important. Of course, we'll talk about her job as the Secretary of Education and the weird, I would say the rare opportunity for a cabinet secretary to actually work to end her position. I want to get her take on that as well. So stand by for that. It's a huge opportunity for me, and I'm a big fan of hers. So I hope that you'll join me for that. So stand by, and we'll get to all of that in due course. All right. Let me see. I got music news, but we'll do that later on, and much, much more, because I got to finish talking about what happened with the Pope. I got to finish talking about what happened in Virginia. And I've also got to talk about this ICE thing that Mark and I were talking about with regards to the police department working inside of ICE facilities, even though these politicians say that they're not going to help ICE. That in and of itself is crazy. And I think that the wool is being pulled over Connecticut's eyes on all of that. So we'll get to the bottom of it. Let's now go back to Mark Christopher. He is in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Linda McMahon on the other side of that. Stand by. Hey, Mark.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, we are back. Let's get to it, because she is a busy person, and I am absolutely honored to have her on the program. Thank you, Madam Secretary Linda McMahon, for gracing us with your presence on the show. Thank you so much for that.
Well, that's quite complimentary to say I'm gracing you with my presence.
You are. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm telling you, like I said earlier, when you were picked to be the small business administrator, I'm telling you, as soon as I heard the word, I was so excited for you. Again, I've always been a big fan of you, but when you joined Trump's administration back in 2017, I was all over that.
Well, thank you very much, and I was incredibly honored both times to have been asked, and the first administration, and then to come back in the second administration and serve as the Secretary of Education. It's the honor of a lifetime to be able to be part of the president's cabinet.
Yeah, indeed, I can only imagine here. And, you know, I'm going to ask you an earlier question I would have saved for later. One of the, I guess, duties of your job as Secretary of Education from the president, unprecedented, I might say, was, Secretary Linda McMahon, I want you to end your job. That's your job. Essentially, that's what you were picked to do. I have to ask, what's that look like? And do you think that that's something will happen with, you know, in the time allotted by 2028?
Well, that is certainly my goal. And the president's idea is to take the bureaucracy out of education.
Indeed.
That he does believe that the best education, and I agree with him on this, that the best education is that happens closest to the child and not through some bureaucrat like me in Washington, D.C. So as we can direct the funding that clearly was being directed before there was a Department of Education, through different agencies or back directly to the states, that's where it ought to be. There shouldn't be this other bureaucratic overhead in Washington that is making things more complicated. It has more regulations that, have to be observed and complied with, et cetera. And education will be better if it is really primarily handled by the states. The funding won't stop.
Right.
Because the funding is appropriated by Congress, and, there was no Department of Education before 1980, and we've now spent $3 trillion through this department to watch our national scores continue to decline. So we need to do something different. We need to make sure that states are on board with this, and that's part of my job. And yes, the president did tell me I'd be successful when I fired myself.
I still think that it's so Trump-esque to say something like that about a cabinet secretary, but I wasn't very surprised. I just sort of chuckled when I heard that was your job and that was your role here. Speaking of which, because what the Trump administration is doing and what you're doing is, in essence, cutting out the middleman when it comes to education, which I would think people who want a better education for their children would embrace. Were you stunned at the reaction to the McKinley Elementary School in Fairfield or the Thomaston High School sort of canceling of your appearance there? Because I would hope that in Connecticut, you being there would sort of put a national spotlight on your hometown.
Well, I just believe it's a lack of understanding of what the History Rocks tour, and that's what you're referring to.
Yes, ma'am.
What we were trying to accomplish. And in this year of our 250th anniversary, the president has definitely wanted to focus on civics and the history of our country, and that's what this tour does. It is absolutely nonpartisan. It is taking a great contest into assemblies in different schools. It has questions about, our national history, and in every state there are questions relative to that state. I mean, there are questions like, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, or who is the primary writer in the Constitution, and what was the battle in which George Washington, really had to hunker down with his troops, et cetera. All of those kinds of questions that are just part of the history of our country or the history of the state. And the kids get really excited in the assembly. I typically have some opening remarks just talking about the 250th celebration. I know it's a leading question, like, who doesn't like birthdays? And we talk about the birthday of our country.
Right.
And so for parents to be calling in and saying, oh, this is incredibly partisan and all of that, they just have no idea. And I think really it's just they're put up to things that they're making decisions on without fully understanding the program, simply because, we're coming to town. And I think that's a shame that the students haven't been allowed to participate in these really wonderful programs. Yeah,
and that was the reason why we were so desperate to get you here. My guy Adam, who reached out to your team, said that, and I saw it as a tragedy that you couldn't come here and do something for the children here. What I found so interesting is that we have all of these people talking about how they care about the children and their future and their education. Here we have the cabinet secretary for education coming to town to bring a focus on education, and these people made it about themselves and not about the children they care the most about. But you know what? Neither here nor there. You're coming to town. You're going to speak at Yale later on tonight. Speaking of which, without giving much of it away, what is that speech about? And does it have you sort of moderated the speech to sort of incorporate what you were going to do here with the public schools in the Yale speech?
Well, actually, it's not a speech. It's something that's much more fun.
Okay.
It's a fireside chat, and the moderator is actually one of the students here at Yale.
All right.
So, so she is going to be asking me, the kinds of questions she would like to ask me. So it'll be an opportunity for me to interact with the student to talk about, the opportunities, in college, what's higher education like, what are we trying to bring to the table relative to education. And so, I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity of interacting with one of the students.
I'm glad you're here. I celebrate you because I kind of feel like you're a hometown. I'm not even from Connecticut, and I kind of treat you like a hometown hero. I just moved here. So I'm like I said, I followed your career for a long time. I want to, if I could, sort of get into a serious thing about education, because one of the biggest problems we're having here in Connecticut is proficiency levels, and they are abysmal. And many parents are frustrated. Many teachers I speak to are frustrated. And there doesn't seem to be any relief, or at least anything that's growing in the hearts and minds of children and education across the country. It's not just here in Connecticut. What are some of the things, if anything, you're finding that you can tweak to make education better for kids? Or what are you seeing that you might see as a problem that we need to fix?
The biggest problem we need to fix is literacy across the country. And we got away from the basics in learning to read. And now there is a return to those kinds of basics through the science of reading. And this is actual research as to what works to teach kids how to read. And it's really getting back to phonics, sounding out words. But this isn't just done with, willy-nilly programming. This is actually based on the science of understanding how to read. And what we have, up until the end of third grade, you're learning to read. And if you cannot read by the end of the third grade, then you can't go on to read to learn. And that's what we have seen, these levels of proficiency just continue to decline because kids can't read. They don't understand what they do read. And it's just been, a downward spiraling circle. And the other thing to note is that there is no one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Education can't be directed from Washington, D.C. And different states, through their own innovation, the science of reading was implemented in Mississippi. And Mississippi, I think, was either last or next to last in reading proficiency. They adopted this program of the science of reading. And now it took a while. It doesn't happen overnight because you also have to train the teachers in how to teach the science of reading. But they've seen dramatic improvement. They've come from last to around middle of the pack now. Louisiana adopted it. Florida did. Tennessee did. But these were state innovations. This was not anything from the federal government.
Yeah.
So what we want to shine a light on this and to say these are best practices that states have adopted. Reach out to these state superintendent leaders and to governors and learn about what's been successful for them. And I think you're seeing more and more states do that. And honestly, the president's focus on education and of where our NAEP scores or the nation's report card scores, I think has really opened the eyes of a lot of parents and teachers throughout the country who know that we are failing. When the president looked at those scores, and this was the first week, I think, after he actually became president, and saw that not only were we that we were not proficient across the country, but the United States was like third from the bottom compared to other countries, in our educational development. And so he told me he was not only angry, but he was embarrassed about that, and he wanted something done. And so the programs that he put forth, and I think, he really does believe in school choice and that parents should not have to have kids trapped in a failing school. And so when we put out the Working Families Tax Cut, bill, and it was passed, and it's kind of like the first national opportunity for school choice, but governors have to opt in, or school boards have to opt in, or legislators have to opt in, ever how that works in each particular state.
Yeah.
But why governors or legislators would not opt into this program? And I've seen quotes. In fact, one of the ones here in Connecticut was that, they didn't want to see more money taken out of the private sector. And this is absolutely a false impression as to what this act does. What this act does is allow private contributions into nonprofits in a state which are approved by the governor or the state legislature or a school board. And that money then, and there's no cap on the amount of the donation.
That's good.
But those individuals can then deduct up to $1,700 on their federal tax return for their donation. This is all private money going into these 501c3s that can then provide scholarships or after-school tutoring or summer programs, or in the case of students with disabilities, that have more need for different programs, can also provide those for those students. It's just a win-win. And the idea and the false narrative that keeps being put forth is that this takes money away from public schools is absolutely false.
You talked about school choice being a definite agenda of this administration and many others before it. I want to get one question in before you go, because I know you have to leave. Homeschooling has been a huge debate here in Connecticut. I'm sure that you followed it. Of course, there were several deaths that took place for parents who'd taken their children out of school and put them into homeschooling. But the thing I want to kind of focus on, if you could sort of speak on it for a little bit, is that we have seen parents who are homeschooling their children, those proficiency rates, the rate of graduation, the age of graduation, those numbers have been absolutely remarkable. We're seeing 11, 12, 13-year-olds graduating high school through homeschooling. What can you say to the parents here who are fighting so hard to not have homeschooling so over-regulated by legislation, and what your view on homeschooling is overall, even across the country?
Well, homeschooling certainly is growing across the country, and I think, a great deal of that grew out of COVID and what happened during COVID when kids weren't allowed to go to school and schools were shuttered for such a long period of time, and parents were just not going to sit still and allow that to happen. And so for those great results we've seen in many states from homeschooling, I say bravo to those parents. And parents, need to be involved in what their school curriculum is. They need to go to school board meetings. They need to run for the school board. They need to have a say in what the curriculum is for their students, because that's really where the power is. And who knows better what their child needs than a parent? And we have to give more rights back to parents and the school systems so that there is that freedom of choice, and the funding, should go to all aspects of education.
Absolutely. Madam Secretary Linda McMahon, thank you for joining us. Please, can you send a message to the president? And I promise it's not a bold ask. Many people here in Connecticut, they want him to focus on this state. They love the fact that he filed the lawsuits about the, election integrity, and he filed the lawsuit about, sanctuary states. But we just want him to know that we are here. We know that he's covering every place in the globe, but we want him to please, remember Connecticut, because a lot of us here are rooting for him, and we want him to help us here because he's fighting corruption all over the place. And we want to make sure that he knows that we're waiting for him to come down here and clean this place up too. Okay?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, our guest, thank you again, ma'am. I hope you'll come back if you can when you come into town, and good luck with the fireside chat today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and it's nice to talk to the folks here in Connecticut.
Thank you so much. There you have it, folks. I can't say much. Everybody was nervous. They thought I was going to flub. No, I'm kidding. I'm just feel honored to talk to her. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. The first time I heard that she was going to be the small business administrator, actually, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I don't even know why, but I was just like, oh man, that's a great get. I was really excited for her. And now she's the education secretary, and I was excited then too. I kind of felt like, it's like somebody you went to high school getting a great job. It's weird, but I'm glad to speak to her. And I'm glad that she took the time to come on the program. Hopefully she'll come back. I'm hoping that they were satisfied with my interview. She'll come back, maybe even come into town and sit across from me right here in the studio. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. We'll come back. Your phone calls, if you wish, at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. Let's get to Mark Christopher. He's in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
The Odyssey app lets you jump back to the moments you missed from WTIC News Talk 1080. Download the free Odyssey app, search WTIC News Talk 1080, and tap earlier today to get started.
All right, we're back. Reese on the radio. By the way, before I get into music news, I want to tell a little inside baseball. So, as I was saying earlier, is that we only had Linda McMahon for a limited time because we had to get into traffic and weather. They called at the top of the hour. As you heard me earlier, I said, please tell them to call at 5:07. I don't want them to have to go through all of those commercials. They called at 5. And Roland explained to them, okay, listen, he's going to do traffic and weather, so it's going to be a little while on your hold. They were like, no, we're fine. We'll stay on hold. It started to get a little longer. We're like, oh. And it looked like I was only going to get about 4 or 5 minutes with her. But because she really did enjoy the interview, she gave me pretty much 20. So I want to thank her for that. They have more than 20 now that I think about it. So I really, really appreciate them doing it. They really enjoyed the interview. It was sort of my test run, if you will. So I'm glad they at least cut me some slack. Because, again, a cabinet secretary, woman doesn't know me from the hole in the ozone layer. And she gave me a break. So I appreciate you. Again, they say don't meet your heroes, right? Or don't meet people. She gave me 17 minutes. Look at that, 17 minutes. So that's longer than most. So I really appreciate her. With that, let's get into some music news. News. I did not know he was from Senegal. I knew he was from Africa, but he is from Senegal. Senegalese American singer Akon turns 53 today. Dave Pirner, the 62-year-old Soul Asylum frontman, celebrates a birthday today. Jason Scheff, the longtime Chicago bassist and vocalist, turns 64. And Peter Garrett, this one blows my mind. Peter Garrett, who was the frontman, lead singer of the group Midnight Oil. Do you remember that group? How do we sleep while the beds are burning? Yeah, that guy. Yes, he turned 73 today. 32 years ago. This is another wild story in music news. 32 years ago, Prince, that's right, Prince Rogers Nelson, scored his first and only #1 hit in the UK with The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. We're talking about Prince here. This is the only song that got #1? Like, you couldn't think of anything? That was only one, his only UK #1 hit. What's wild? 60 years ago, the Rolling Stones released their self-titled debut album in the UK. It shot to #1 for 11 weeks, and it won it was the first non-Beatles album to dominate the chart that year. 70 years ago, Buddy Holly releases his first single, Blue Days, Black Nights, back in 1956, and Chuck Berry records Roll Over Beethoven on Chess Records. There was a movie made about that. I think it featured Beyonce and what's the guy with the big nose? I always forget him. He won the Best Actor for Piano. Okay, Aidan Quinn? No. He's Aidan something. I can't remember his name. Anyway, yes, that was 70 years ago. Chuck Berry records Roll Over Beethoven. Let's get a check of weather and traffic. Mark Christopher, he is here. He is in the BPS Lawyers Traffic Center. Remember Midnight Oil? What's up, everybody? You know who it is.
You know who it is.
You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're back. Pretty much about to wrap it up here. There was something I was going to say, but I don't even know why. It completely, my brain just fogged over, and I completely forgot about it. I know it was something that I was going to mention that was behind the scenes that I didn't get to before. I don't know. Maybe I'll remember it. It wasn't incredibly dire or important, but I did want to mention it. There's just some inside baseball nonsense. Anyway, it was a pleasure having the secretary on, and I want to thank Mark from West Hartford for coming in here and hanging out. He has never been in the studio here at WTIC, and I was talking to him about this weeks ago, about getting him on here, and I said, man, you got to come down to the studio, man. It's like, being here and sort of having the crowd get to know him and hear his voice and hear his perspective, why he does what he does. I think that's important because he is a voice here in Connecticut fighting hard for you. And I wanted to show him that love and respect. He deserves that. Also, we're going to do that for Mike Ortiz. We'll bring him on the program next week as well. We've got another guest coming on next week, and forgive me as I go to my calendar because I've got to read my calendar to find out who's going to be on the program. This is Tuesday, I think, and I don't know why, but I did not. Yes, the social media lawyer, Matthew Bergman, he is going to be here. He was the guy who sued the social media companies and won. He'll be on the program. I think he's calling in because he's either in town or he's calling in from the West Coast. But we're going to have him on to talk about that case and his win against social media companies, even though they're going to appeal that case. But we're still going to have him on to talk to him about that. I don't think we have anybody else planned. We're going to talk to some other people and see if we can get them on here. Also, do not forget, I think we got it fixed. Roland, do you know if we got it fixed, the website yet? WTIC.com? Do I need to go? Maybe I should go there and check myself. I sent a memo this morning to Janine. I sent a memo about, let me see if I can actually look it up and see if it has been fixed, because I did not mention it because I didn't get word that it was, looks like that's new. So let me go to that. I'm going to more. I'm clicking on contest. I'm down to contest. I'm over here clicking on win tickets. And let me see, that's going there. And the win a pair of tickets and submit entry. And yeah, it's all there. It's updated. Yeah. Congratulations. I'm so glad that you did. Okay, let me see if I submit entry. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, submit your entry. There you go. Okay, so you can now go online, go to WTIC.com so that you can be a part of the 11th Commandment GOP gubernatorial debate on May 7th at the Ballroom at Stadium 15, May 7th, 7 p.m. Fill out that form, put in your email address, and you can get a chance to win along with 59 other couples to be there live. You can even show up early because it's a restaurant at Stadium 15. They've got virtual reality and craft beers and a whole bunch of other stuff, so you can go and hang out before the debate at 7 p.m. And they encourage you to come on down and check out Stadium 15. Our proud proprietor of the event at the Ballroom, and also brought to you by our proud sponsors, AARP Connecticut. So do it now. WTIC.com, click on more, click on contest, put in your information so that you can be there. I'll be there. Brian Shackman will be there. Morgan Cunningham will be there. We'll be the moderators. Ryan Fazio will be there. Betsy McCoy will be there. And we had invited other candidates to be there, but either they declined or they never reached out. So, that's how it is. You can ask Biz. That's how it goes. And let me see. What else is in here? I didn't go into the okay. Matty O says that song by Midnight Oil always seems to boomerang back around. It does. I will hear someone play it on one of the classic rock stations, and I'll remember it vividly. I'll never forget the first time I ever heard it. It was in the middle of the night. I used to work the overnight shift. Not overnight, sorry. I used to work the late night shift and would come home to my apartment, and I would watch some television and MTV or something like that. And sure enough, late night, they would play Midnight Oil, and you couldn't hear it anywhere else on MTV. It was never played during regular broadcasting. I guess because you're kind of paying for your music videos to be played. So, because they're a small band, they played it in the middle of the night. And that's kind of the way it went. So, anyway, I want to come. Wait a minute. I want to come to the debate and meet you. Representative Haynes. Absolutely. Without a doubt. You listen to this program. You're a representative, of course. We'll make that happen. Anyway, what else was there? I know there was something else I wanted to bring up. But Roseanne will be here tomorrow because it's Friday already. Goodness, it's so fast. So fast. By the way, I want to say thank you, Maria, who sent us the invitation to come out to Manchester. Maria, we will be there. We sort of screwed up the last time with the date and the time last month, but we will come out there. Thank you for inviting us again. We will come to your breakfast in Manchester, so if you're listening, expect us there with bells on. There was something else. Oh, I've got to have a meeting with Sam on the street about doing some correspondent work out there. I also want to say, and I don't want to forget this, I want to show some love to Adam 12, who a lot of you don't know. And if I can, let me heap some praise on him a little bit here. So imagine a guy who's never done the whole booking thing. He will cold call anybody. And I'm not kidding. He has got, he's a kamikaze pilot in the sense of getting people on this program. He will cold call anyone. And he is the reason why we got Linda McMahon today. He ran that campaign to get her on this show, and he succeeded. And there isn't anyone he won't try to get on this program. And I'm going to say, I mean, I don't know what got into him, but he is. I'll tell the story. It went a little like this. So Adam had listened to the show, I guess, when there was a fill-in spot, and he had listened to the show, and he had sort of given up on talk radio or whatever, and his friend had said, hey, are you listening to this guy on WTIC? You should listen to him, this guy Reese. So Adam listens to the show, and I am on the air, and I am doing whatever I do, and he happens to tune in, and I do my favorite segment that all of you have come to love. Negro nonsense. Yep. Well, that's all Adam needed to hear. Well, he calls his friend back, and he goes, yeah, I heard the guy. He's great, but he's getting fired. He says, did you hear that Negro nonsense thing he did? They're going to fire him. There's no way he's staying. Why would I listen to him? He's not going to last. And his friend goes, yeah, go look him up on YouTube. And Adam did. And he saw my face and he goes, what, this guy's black? Lost his mind. Well, he has been a dedicated supporter of this show ever since. And he called me every day, every chance he could, on another story, another thing. And he just designated himself as the official booker on Reese on Radio, and I've trusted him with every bit of it, and he will go out there and he will get anybody on this program, and no one is too out of bounds for that guy. No one. And I'll tell you, if you really want to know, he's literally called and asked to see if we could get J.D. Vance or Donald Trump on the program. He is fearless. That's, I'm telling you. And we look at him. Roseanne and I look at him, and we have dinner with he and his wife all the time, and we love them. They're family to us. And the stuff that this guy will come up with, he's like, you know who we need to get on this show? And it's like incredible stuff. There's no one he won't try. And I go, I don't doubt him. I don't. I tell you guys, don't doubt me. I don't doubt him. Because when he said he was going to get Secretary of Education Linda McMahon on him, he delivered. So I have complete and utter faith in the man. And that's the reason why. So I want to give him kudos. This was not me. I just delivered the goods on the interview. He made it happen, and that's the reason why you got to give him props. Carmela says, thanks, Adam 12. She also says that on there, Carmela says, thank you for giving us a shout-out. Thank you for plugging Connecticut at the end of the interview. I had planned on that last night. I said to myself, I'm hoping to get a message to the president through her, if I can, to please do not forget Connecticut. Because a lot of us are trying to reach out to the president. We know how impossible that is. And this was just a kind of, it's almost like kind of getting close enough to him. So I wanted to take that opportunity. I did not want to squander it to tell her, please tell the president that Connecticut is rooting for him and we need him as much as possible. So I'm very, very proud of him. And they appear to be happy with the interview, so I'm glad that they are. And hopefully very soon they will come back. We definitely invite her. She has an open invitation to join us on the program. All right, with that, we are almost out of here. Tomorrow's program, like I said, Roseanne will be here. I got a couple of stories in the tank that I did not get to today, one of which is a list of the most popular people, according to a New Jersey.gov poll. It looks like Chris Murphy may be moving up in the favorability polling. But that's not the whole thing, and it gets really, really bad after that. This is a story from 2018. It was written by the UK Guardian. Here's the headline, and this will turn your head. Do you hate your body odor? Well, if you do, you're more likely to have right-wing views. Yes. If you hate your body odor, you may have right-wing views. According to 3 online experiments totaling 750 people, they recruited them via the internet, not exactly a random national poll. They found out that most people who don't like armpit stink are conservative. I think it just proves that liberals are filthy. That's all. That's all it is. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, it was a real study. They really did it. I don't want to smell your BO is a right-wing personality disorder. It should be a part of the stupidest thing, but it's from 2018, so it really doesn't apply. The higher disgust your body odor, the slightly higher RWA scores. It explains 10% of the variation in authoritarianism. The tiny link to Trump support is plus 2%. You don't like funky people, you're a Nazi. That's just how stupid this world has become. I don't even know what to say. It's time to get up out of here. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night, a pleasant tomorrow, and we will see you back here at 2 p.m.